All right, welcome back to Off the Grid on the Record, the show where we dive deep into the behind the scenes machinery driving the future of renewable energy. We go beyond headlines and hype to spotlight the operators, builders, and innovators making real impact in clean infrastructure. Today's guest is Monroe Jett, a 36-year-old real estate veteran, former bank president, and now founder of a game changing software platform called Title Leader. While most conversations in solar and sustainability that we usually talk about on the podcast revolve around installations and storage, Monroe is solving a problem that almost nobody talks about, but every developer experiences. It's the chaos of managing land rights, title work, and critical paperwork across massive utility and community scale energy projects. His platform simplifies one of the most antiqued and risk prone parts of the project lifestyle, giving developers a faster, smarter, and headache free way to move projects forward. So, whether you're in energy, real estate, or just love hearing about under the radar innovation, this episode is for you. So, Monroe, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much. I wish I was a 36-year-old, as you said. I'm a 36-year veteran of the, of the real estate industry.
Fantastic. Well, happy we can make that clarification, but
Yeah,
it's been a long time coming. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. How are you? You all right?
I'm doing okay. Can't complain, staying busy, and I'm excited to jump into this. I think there's a lot of insight that you have to offer us.
I love your introduction. It says a couple of things. One, this part is usually not paid attention to that I automate, and it is antique. Um, so that's what I love about your intro.
Exactly. No, it's amazing.
And that
It's
I'm
been
36 years old. I like that.
it's nice and fine tuned. We've had a couple shots to get there, but it'd be amazing to start at the beginning with you. I mean, you've had a long career, that 36-year tenure in real estate and finance. You've been a former bank president. What was the moment or pain point that led you to create Title Leader?
Well, I was a banker for 15 years and the president, and then I left and started my own full service title and escrow company that served all 120 counties of Kentucky. I'm in Lexington. And I served all my former bank competitors with real estate services, with closing excellence. And it was during the operation of my title company that I had a specific type of company come to me that needed me to service them and provide title products to them. They needed title searches across, they needed about 3,000 title searches a year, which is about 60 a week across all 120 counties of Kentucky. It was a foreclosure law firm. And there is no software out there to automate that. So I had to receive all these orders from clients. I had to then turn around and pass them to my vendors, had to turn around and receive the work from the vendors, repackage everything, send it up to the clients, track what had been ordered, what had been delivered, when it was delivered, who delivered it. And then the second piece was, so that's the order management. And then there was the communication piece. So some searches would get interrupted because there's problems with these title searches, and they cannot be continued unless the client responds with contact with some direction or information. So I'd be the go-between between the client and all my search abstractors across the state to get them to get those problems resolved. And then the third piece was invoicing. I would get invoices from my subcontractors, and I would need to invoice my client. We need to track everything, fix all kinds of problems. So and I found that, so how was I doing all that? I was doing that with spreadsheets and color codes and handwritten notes and hard copy folders. And we had strict naming conventions on the data where we were going to save it. And we had supposedly one spot where we were going to save all this. Then we had the spreadsheet to track everything, and it was subject to, it had data entry. So it was subject to error, omission, and backlogs. It was a nightmare. And I found that my client was duplicating all of these exact same tracking efforts. And when we tried to reconcile, we never matched up, right? So I thought, this is absurd, and there's no reason this shouldn't be automated. So I automated it. And I started building Title Leader, sold my title company, and rolled out my software for this one particular client, which was a large foreclosure law firm serving just Kentucky foreclosures. So what's interesting is then we started bringing on foreclosure is in the default services realm, right? So there's a bunch of different people that operate in the default services realm. There are counties that do foreclosure and cities that do foreclosure to collect property taxes. There are foreclosure law firms that do foreclosure for banks. There's banks that do it. There's things called servicers. So there's all these different people that operate in default services. Anyway, so we started onboarding these guys as customers. And a guy who's doing sales for me lives in Charlottesville, Virginia, and there's 5 solar developers in Charlottesville, Virginia, and he knew one of the founders. So he went and talked to us like, hey, do you guys need title? He's like, boy, do we. We need it all over the nation, so in our projects. And so we did a demo for him. He's like, this is awesome. So they started using us. And in the renewable energy, so the renewable energy developer bucket, all right? So what these guys do is they go out and they scout all these properties, and then they clear all the risk, and then they sell it to someone who's going to build this massive solar farm and then operate it as a utility, right? So anyway, so we started onboarding solar developers, and then wind, battery storage, and hydrogen developers, because they all need title work. They need title work all over the nation. They need it on all different projects. They need one central place to store it all, make it really easy. So we've got this order management platform or title management platform, and we also have a marketplace in it with all of the vendors they need. So if they just need, for whatever title products they need, if they just need title searches, we've got the largest 3 title search companies in the nation that they wouldn't have access to normally, because you have to have a lot of volume to get these. So we've got them in our platform, and we give our clients access to all these if they just want searches. And if they want title commitments, we've got all the title insurance underwriters in there, so they can order title insurance commitments. If they order a search first and they want a commitment later, the underwriters can use these searches because these search vendors are approved. And then we have folks, so that's in so the first 2 buckets are default services and renewable energy developers. Then we started picking up commercial real estate law firms. For example, I've got an office in New York, and their first order was 85 properties, which were all car washes in 6 different states across the eastern seaboard. And it was just a portfolio sale for, from one company to the next. And so they needed to do a bunch of due diligence up front without ordering commitments. So they ordered searches. They could have ordered commitments right in our platform. They have on other projects. So anyway, so you drop that spreadsheet of all those properties on our platform. Boom, you get 3 quotes from our vendors, and you choose the quote with a click. And then all of a sudden, everything's tracked for them. Completed work is automatically received, numbered and stored all in one spot. Makes it really easy. The communication to solve these search interrupting problems I mentioned before is all right there in one spot. Everything's date and time stamped and attached to the order. And then all the invoicing is there too. The invoice is automatic, and the invoices populate as your searches hit your dashboard or commitments. So commercial real estate law firms or attorneys began using this. And then we also, the 4th bucket of users is what's called private lenders, or you may have heard the term hard money lenders. So these are either, it's a combination of lenders and investors, right? So they're buying up properties all over the U.S. to either hold in their portfolio or to turn around and sell. So they might themselves be a wholesaler, or they are buying up all these properties and then turning around and selling them to investors, people that want to operate that property as a rental property, add it to their portfolio. So these private lenders and private investors and wholesalers use our platform also, and the product they need are closings. So they need a full closing with title insurance. They need these closings all over the U.S. Some people are regional, like I've got a call today with a local wholesaler who's regional. They're all over Kentucky. The guy who's in my Bible studies, the CEO, just started coming. And I'm like, hey, can we chat? And I shared with him what we do, and he was like, yeah, let's take a look and see. So these folks use us to order and track all their closings and purchases or refinances or sales of their property all over the U.S. And we have the biggest settlement agent that issues title insurance all over the United States, and so you can track your closings in there. And We customize it for them. So instead of just tracking which searches have hit your dashboard with the blue line extending to the right in our tracking piece, with our lenders, the blue line extends to the right as each of the 7 stages of a closing takes place. So boom, 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 boom. So anyway, so it makes it, our platform makes it really easy to track any kind of title work that you need. You can order it, track, receive, access, store, find, communicate. Invoices are automatically created. You can't duplicate them. You duplicate an invoice, you can't duplicate a search. So invoices are always 100% correct. And when you cancel a search, it's automatically removed, or cancel a piece of property out of any order, it's automatically removed from your invoice. So invoices are always 100% correct. And when it comes time to pay, you just pay with a click. And everything's right there for you. You can find anything in a millisecond by searching any word from any field and of any order. Then lastly, equally as important, even more importantly, potentially, is the fact that we get our customers out of work silos. Like all their individual employees are working in inaccessible, non-transparent silos where no one else knows what work they're doing unless they're putting all this stuff in shared spreadsheets and shared drives, which is inherent with all kinds of problems, like I mentioned before, some of which I haven't even gone into. But so we get them out of work silos and into shared data. So work is automatically received, numbered, and stored all in the same spot. You got individual and team view, so anybody can see and access anybody else's work and continue it, whether the initial employee is absent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when does that happen? It happens all the time. If someone in your office isn't there, and you don't have title leader, and you have a question that is critical, or that person's either on vacation, they've been dismissed, fired from the company, they've left the company, they're in the hospital unexpectedly, they're sick, whatever, and work needs to continue on that project. Currently, without title leader, how do you continue somebody else's work? We got to go break into that silo somehow. If they're a remote employee, forget about it. You don't have access to their laptop.
Exactly.
And if they're in the office, then you got to go and you got to where did they save it? How did they save it? What naming conventions did they use? Did they do it all right? There's a good chance they didn't. You got to go scroll through their e-files, scroll through their inboxes. It's a nightmare. So anyway, so we fix all those problems and we just make it really easy for
That's
them.
fantastic. No, it's a great way to really bring that whole idea together, because another thing that I want to talk about is Title Leader is free for developers, which I think a lot of people are going to say is, a little too good to be true. What's the business model and why did you choose to structure it that way?
Well, I looked at it so first of all, our pricing is totally non-traditional SaaS, software as a service. Software as a service is usually a subscription, an annual subscription, and you get discounted maybe if you want to go 2 years or 3 years. We don't do it that way. And instead, we have 0 subscription fees, license fees, or user limits. And our revenue model is that we make the money from our vendors in our marketplace. So all the vendors, search vendors, and the providers of title insurance companies, they all will revenue share with us or discount their fees 5%, and then we mark it up 5%, which is like $12 or $15 on a $300 search. So, but it's not added on top; it's discounted from them, and then we add it so that the client gets the normal competitive fees that they're used to already paying. So they can, by using Title Leader, they're going to pay the normal fees per product that they're used to paying. But you get all of this amazing efficiency at no charge. So why did I do it that way? Well, I looked at it the way I would want to, and I don't want to pay for something. I want to take the risk. I hate that. Like we used HubSpot at one point, and I didn't like it. And so we stopped using it about 6 to 7 months in, but I'm still paying for the rest of the year. So this way the clients win. Everybody wins. I mean, I wanted to remove all barriers, right? I don't want there to be any objections for using this. It needs to be extremely easy to use this, and it is. Our platform is so simple. I designed it for me with no intention of going national or even regional with it. And I like everything color coded. And I want to see all the data in front of me. I want a dashboard to be a true dashboard. I don't want you to have to
Exactly.
click all kinds of clicks to dig deep and find stuff. And what screen am I looking at? And how do I back out and get to the big picture? No, I wanted, you need to know, I wanted them to see at a glance and know everything they need to know by looking at it, not just statistics and stuff we have some stats on there, like turnaround time, et cetera. We display that. But so that's how I designed it. And I use color codes, and it's just really simple. And I get compliments all the time on how it looks and how easy it is to use, which is kind of cool. So I'm glad that what I designed for me, other people recognize the value in, and they love it. But one thing I want to make a comment on, you asked earlier, or we were talking about the different user groups. Yeah, I've got a bunch of solar developers and renewable energy developers, but it's fascinating because I had when you create a tool, you're not sure how it's going to be used, right? It was
Exactly.
fascinating, but it totally applied and applies to renewable energy developers. And because I want our clients to be really happy and use this, because the more they use this, so they order stuff, the vendors and providers in our platform, in our marketplace, fulfill those orders, and I get a couple of bucks per order. So it's all about volume. So how do I get customers to use us for all of their volume? Well, I got to make it really simple, and I got to give them what they want. So how does this apply to the renewable energy developers? Well, like NextEra uses, Apex uses this, and they're top 5 renewable energy developers. But we also have folks that are doing, like 5 orders a year, right? Instead of 50 a month, right? They're doing 5 orders a year, and that's great. So there's really no volume that's required to get really efficient. All right. So you're going to do 2 things by using this. One is you're going to get really efficient, and the other thing is you're going to get access to all the best providers in the nation, right? So it really doesn't matter about volume, right? So, so what I was getting at is for renewable energy developers, they asked us to different clients asked for different things. So this client said, "Hey, we like to do a search before we sign a site control agreement," and they called it a vesting and tax search. We want the vesting deed, we want a copy of it, and we want tax status on all the parcels. So what they do is they'll drop in. So we created that for them, right? It's like, I don't know, it's like $100, right? So they'll drop in their spreadsheet of parcels, and boom, the search comes. They already know what the fee is going to be. They drop, and the searches come back automatically, and they get that stuff. So the point is, we can create whatever little niche product they want. So NextEra wanted something called a vesting and competition search. So they also wanted the vesting deed up front. All this is for the same purpose. It's before signing a site control agreement. Site control, site control agreement, as your hopefully your audience knows, is you've got land agents out there going around, and they've already the company's already identified certain parts of the nation and states and counties where they want to build, hopefully have a development, and so or a project. And so they'll go out and they'll have land agents go talk to all the landowners, right? And so then what they'll do is they'll sign essentially a lease. It's referred to as a site control agreement. 80% of the time it's a lease, and it may even be higher now. It's kind of a 3-year-old stat, a 2-year-old stat. So they'll sign this agreement, this lease. Hey, we're going to lease this property from you for 30 years for X dollars a month, and we're going to build and operate we're going to build this solar array on your 500 acres. Anyway, so they got to get all these different people to sign these site control agreements. So they got to make sure they know exactly who it is that actually has the rights to sign those lease agreements on behalf of the property owners. And sometimes it's not the people they think. So they want this vesting agreement. They want the vesting deed for each of these properties. And then they want us to search in this custom search for NextEra, search for 20 years to see if any of their competitors have also recorded any sort of a option agreement or a site control agreement also. So anyway, so we created that for them, and that's done by quote. So my point is that we're flexible and we can offer whatever the customer wants. What do renewable energy developers order from us? Let's get into that real quick. So we got a lot of folks up front that don't want to order title commitments up front because it takes a lot of time and they're much more expensive. So they'll order title searches up front.
Hmm.
Sometimes they'll order all the way back to patent. Sometimes they'll just, patent is the term when the United States government first either gave that land for free to its first private owner, or they sold it to its first private owner. So that's patent. And in the eastern U.S., it's 1700s in there, 1800s.
Hmm.
Out west, it's later, late 1800s, et cetera. So anyway, so these people will order to eliminate risk, to de-risk their project up front. Some of them just order a 30-year project. Like if you're just doing a 2-acre battery project, you'll probably just do the 30-year or 50-year search up front, and that's it. And because that's all that's going to be required for a title commitment. And why not order a commitment up front? Why just order the searches up front? Well, you're going to get the searches back a lot faster. And you don't have to wait on the title insurance company to type up the title commitment. You get the same data in both, but you're going to get the searches back. And if you're going back to patent, let's call it an average of 12 days, business days, where if you order a commitment, it's going to be 30 days, because the title insurance companies, first of all, they're going to call our vendors. Our vendors are going to do the searches for them, because our vendors are the biggest in the nation. And then they're going to sit on it for a while. They're going to review it for a while. Then they're going to type up the title commitment, and then they're going to upload the title commitment to the customer's dashboard. So it takes a while to order commitments, but you can get searches back a lot faster. Sometimes 50% faster, or even 75% faster. So
Wow.
that saves weeks. And you go ahead and you can identify, why are people doing title searches in the first place? Well, first of all, let me back up. So what do they order? Well, they'll order title searches up front, or they'll order commitments up front. You can order searches for any length. You can get commitments. So that's what our developers are ordering from us. They're ordering specialty searches up front for site control agreements. Then they're ordering the big searches to de-risk their project, or they're ordering commitments. So it's those three, actually, type of products they're ordering from us.
That's amazing. Well, there's a lot of talk also, especially in solar, about, permitting delays and, like interconnection queues, but title isn't, often in the headline. It's not really, a big, conversation. Do you think title work is an under discussed bottleneck? And if so, how are you getting this in front of people?
It's definitely a bottleneck. Well, most people don't understand it. Most people don't understand title, and it's people think title, they may think deed, usually think title to a car, a vehicle. Although a deed to a property is like a title to a car, right? Title to a property means everybody. It's a big term, all right? It's an encompassing term that means a variety of things. Title means everybody and anybody that has rights to a property. Now, that's not just the owners of the property. It could be the utility company, their sewer company that has a sewer easement that goes across the front of their property. So they've got like a 20-foot wide easement that's several hundred yards long that goes down their 500-acre farm, right? So that's an easement, and there's a variety of easement types. You might have some power lines that go across, right? So the easement could be 60 feet wide and go diagonally across your property. These easements are out there, and they give people rights to access their property, to maintain something on that property. Okay, usually it's utilities. But what else could it be? It could be a neighbor who's landlocked, or a next door neighbor, and you have a shared driveway. So they have an easement to use that driveway. So why are easements important for developers? Well, it could impact where they're going to build their solar array, right? Where they're going to put their battery stuff. Where are you going to put entrances and exits? Do you need to build a new access and egress? Do you need to build a new entrance so that it can be served? Because, especially battery facilities, you're going to have access to that local fire departments can get in and bring their big equipment and turn it around, right? So there's a big radius that they need to be able to turn around it. So anyway, so you got to know where all the easements are. And the only way to find easements is to do a title search, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But your question was, why is it not talked about? A lot of people, no one understands all this stuff, right? So title means all these people that have rights. And why would they? Well, no one should. really understand title because it's a complex niche industry that everybody deals with on a daily basis. I closed over 8,000 transactions, either purchases or refinances, and people are coming in to my closing table, and I've got buyers, sellers, real estate agents, for commercial property or residential property. And, I've got all the lender's documents. In Kentucky, I represented the lender, not the buyers or the sellers, right? So, but I had to explain these documents to everyone. No one knows what's going on. And so I am extremely aware of that because, when I would have first-time home buyers, I had my first-time home buyer closing pitch or spiel, which I would go in depth into more items so that they understood why you're signing all this stuff and that it's normal to sign all this. But no one knows, and they shouldn't. But, why do we not know how to fix broken teeth? Well, we're not dentists, right? And so that's why it's really not discussed quite a bit. But it's a critical and most important piece. It's a critical and very important piece, equally as important as anything else, as the design of the solar array, as the construction materials, as the yield that you're going to get from it, all of this stuff. Why is it so important? Here's why. To be able for whoever's going to build this and operate it, it could be two different entities, right? You could have a construction company that goes in and builds it, and then you could have an eventual someone who operates it. As the utility itself, but let's just lump them together. So whoever's going to build this and operate it is going to get a loan, right? Because let's assume it's a $300 million project. That's a big project, right? So to be able to get a loan on a large project, on any size project, it doesn't matter the size of the project, but to be able to get a loan, the lender is going to require something called title insurance. The lenders always require title insurance on big projects. Do they have to? Almost always they have to. All right. So what's title insurance? Well, it protects the eventual owner from problems with the title, with people that have an interest and an interest in that property. It's not necessarily owners. It could be anyone that has a right to access that property. What kind of problems does that mean that the title search is done wrong? No. No, title insurance does not protect you against someone doing an incorrect title search. Title insurance insures the lender against financial loss if an unfindable defect pops up, an invisible defect. That once the original title search was done, that they properly executed or found everything that was identifiable at the time. Well, how could something exist that was not findable? Well, there's things called defects, title defects. And essentially it's just human error, okay? So if say I had an easement that ran across the first 100 yards of a property because I farmed that property and the guy gave me an easement or whatever. Okay. And I took that easement down to file it to make an official record at the county clerk's office, which, if it's official record, should be able to be found when you do a title search. But the humans at the recording office, they put a typo in the address, or they put a typo in my name. I've got a funky name, Monroe Jett. You've got an interesting name, right? Yarrick Maddox. So typos, I've seen them all my life, right? People call me Jeff Monroe. So anyway, so the people recording that document at the county clerk's office could make an error so that if I search the proper name and the proper address, it won't come up on the county records, right? That's called a title defect. It's invisible. I did a proper search of everything. So that's why when title searches are done, you'll search commonly misspelled names. You'll have to rule out, it's called curative, where all these liens are reported. Well, and easements are reported, but you can eliminate them by matching up social security numbers. Is this the M. Monroe Jett? Is this Malcolm Monroe Jett? Or is this, Mary Monroe Jett? I mean, so they'll use social security numbers to clear that stuff up. So anyway, human error, indexing, misindexing, which is what I was just talking about, where you type it in wrong. That's the biggest one. But all these documents that affect land records, title, are prepared by humans, transported by humans, and then recorded by humans and then searched by humans. And so there's error everywhere, and it happens. And so lenders know that. Lenders know that, and lenders know that at any. So that's just one example, right, of an error that I thought of. A defect is a indexing error. But lenders know that due to these defects, at any time someone could step up, and as a result of a title defect, they could claim to have an interest in that property. Okay, what could it? Well, it could be an ownership interest. Cousin Eddie, no one liked Cousin Eddie. He left town when he was 21, and he went to Europe, and no one's ever seen him since. Two generations later, they don't even know about Cousin Eddie, so they didn't include him in the docs. But he comes back, he's 80 years old, and he owns 50% of the property, and it's a $300 million project, and he wants to get paid. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to have to step up and pay him off, make Cousin Eddie go away. Who's it going to be?
Exactly.
Is it going to be the owner of the property? No. Is it going to be the lender? The lender doesn't want that property to be sold. The lender's going to have a $300 million project, and if half that property gets sold, then they've got to tear off half of their development on another project without getting compensated for it. So no way.
Exactly.
So what happens? Well, you have this industry called title insurance. The title insurance company would step up, defend that claim in court, and if the owner of the property lost, they'd pay it off and make Cousin Eddie go away. Right. Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of things like that. There are deeds that are misrecorded and misindexed. There are deeds that have been signed under duress. There have been deeds that have been signed by after death, right? Falsified. There have been deeds forged. And it's okay, like when husband goes down and signs deed for wife whenever they're married and everything's hunky dory, but then they sell the property off, and now there's a $300 million project on it. But and then the wife and husband get divorced, and she's like, I didn't sign that deed. I still have an ownership interest in that property because it's a spousal rights state, and I want to get paid to go away. Is it blackmail? Yes. Is it legal? Yes, unfortunately. So these are all title defects. Right. Exactly. So, and there's a whole list of them. I've got a whole list of them that I would share with people about when to buy owner's title insurance, because what we were talking about earlier is lender's title insurance. So anyway, the bottom line is solar projects cannot happen without title insurance being issued, so that the buyers of the property that are borrowing money so the lender who's financing this project, the lender that's financing this project can get title insurance coverage. Otherwise, the buyers of the property ain't going to get any money. So that's why title is so important. And it's a niche.
Exactly.
And these developers are ordering title, all this different stuff on all these different projects all across the U.S. And what are they looking for? Well, they're looking for fatal flaws. Okay, so they're looking for issues, like all these problems. So they're trying to detect defects that can be detectable, right? They're trying to find breaks in the deed chain, that all these different parties didn't sign off on it properly. They're trying to find easements, and they're trying to determine, okay, this easement goes across where we want a critically important piece. We can't move this project on this property anywhere else. It's got to be here. We got to get this easement owner to change the easement to go around it. And so they're negotiating with the easement owner, and the easement owner's being a jerk. So they're like, all right, we don't want to pay them $1 million to make them go away. We just want to pay them $50,000 to make it. That's a fatal flaw, right? So you're trying to identify who has all these rights, and can we change these around or augment these rights a little bit so we've got enough space to build the project we want to build, right? So by identifying who has rights to the property, which is title, by doing a title search, and making all these, clearing up all these things, which is called curative. So curative is the general term for clearing up all these problems that can be found, right? That can be identified up front. They're looking for fatal flaws. And if, the problem is all these flaws, every single flaw can be fixed. But It's a matter of how much money and how much time is it going to take to fix it. It's going to take too much money and time. The developer is going to make a business decision like, all right, screw this property. Let's go on to our next priority property. And they're
Exactly.
probably already working on it, right? You're probably working on all these different properties at once. You're like, okay, let's bail on this and let's pour our resources, people, human capital, financial capital. Let's get this other project rolling faster. Now that we don't have this project A, we only have project B. And let's roll on project B. So it allows solar developers, title searches, and finding these fatal flaws allows solar developers or any kind of renewable energy developer to focus their resources on where they're going to have more success and actually build a project.
That's amazing.
Anyway,
I mean, I
that's why
think
title is
you,
so important, and we just make their job a lot easier. So the larger the developer is, the more likely this whole title role is centralized into a real estate team. Okay, and they probably have an in-house attorney and a counsel that's on this team, or they may not. They may just have a bunch of people that are ordering title searches and just cranking it out. Okay, but someone along the way needs to have some real estate law knowledge, or they'll talk with the attorneys at the title insurance underwriters. That's all title insurance underwriters are, is they're real estate attorneys. Okay, and they're in the business of taking risk, and you can pound them. You can say this is a critically important project. We need to get this done. Just give us insurance, even though we found problem A, and you can negotiate with them. And they're like, well, what can we do? So anyway, so there are things you can negotiate with title insurance underwriters to get those title insurance companies to issue the title insurance and avoid the fatal flaw. So
that's amazing.
that's a summary. Sorry.
No worries. But I think lastly to kind of close out, I mean, you've seen how clean energy projects are, really built. What excites you the most about the future of infrastructure in this space? And, where do you think we'll see the next big operational innovation?
I'm not sure where we're going to see the next innovation. What I hope is that the connectivity, the regulators, the government wants alternate energy, right? Alternative energy, but they're not willing to get out of their own way to let these projects be developed. They need to relax those, in my opinion, they need to relax those regulations or stipulations and requirements. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know where the next innovation is going to come. I know that we've got some other technology partners in the space that are considering taking our software and adding it into theirs. I'm under NDAs, so I can't disclose that, but these are very large companies that are used by 90% of developers to design to design their solar arrays and their projects efficiently and effectively, and that's exciting for us. So as far as what technology and developments are on the future for us, that's what's on for us. But for the industry, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I go to RE Plus, which is the biggest trade show in the industry, and you got 45,000 attendees in Vegas and everywhere else that it's been, Anaheim last year. So that's fascinating, and the technology is just amazing.
Hmm.
I find it fascinating. So I'm walking around checking everybody else out. So I don't know. It's a great question. It's going to be fun to see. I know that some of the tax credits are potentially going away with the administration change, but the efforts are not going to change. Utility scale is in strong, high demand, and I think always will be. So I'm excited.
Exactly. I think as most of us are too. And just to close out, Monroe, thanks again. Like it's a lot of great insight that you've given us, and you've shed a light on one of the most overlooked and absolutely like critical pieces of the, I want to say, clean energy puzzle almost. So,
Well, it is.
for
I
our
agree with
listeners,
that. I like that analogy.
amazing. And no, for our listeners, if you're building or like solar or storage projects at any scale and you're still tracking the searches in a spreadsheet, go check out Title Leader. It could save your team months of work and countless headaches. So we'll link everything Monroe shared in the show notes. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Off the Grid on the Record on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts, and share it with someone in your network who's deep in the dev side trenches. Until next time, thank you so much, Monroe, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thanks, Eric. Take care.
Thanks. Bye bye.